Hey everybody, this is John Carnell with the Genesys Cloud Developer Engagement Team, and I am here to bring you the fourth DevDrop in our Genesys Cloud Functions DevDrop series. So in the previous three videos, we walked you through the high-level architecture of Genesys Cloud Functions. We talked about how to set up and configure the Genesys Cloud UI, including setting up Genesys Cloud integrations and Genesys Cloud data actions. And then in the third video, we showed you how to actually write a Genesys Cloud function locally. Including writing that, we showed you how to test the function locally and then package it up into a zip file in preparation for us deploying it out to our Genesys Cloud organization. So what I'm going to do now in this dev drop is walk you through how to actually go and upload that zip file to Genesys Cloud. Because this project is in beta right now, we don't have a UI yet to allow you to upload the zip file containing your Genesys Cloud function. But we do have APIs, and we are going to use our Genesys Cloud CLI to go out there and do the upload. So before we begin, I want to emphasize that you're going to need to have the Genesys Cloud CLI installed on your machine. And you're also going to want to have curl installed on your machine because you're going to actually use curl to go and upload your Genesys Cloud function. In addition, a couple of other helpful tools. I would highly recommend that you have JQ, a JSON parser, on your machine because it will help simplify some of the work we're going to do. And then I am including a Python script in here to help generate the curl command that we have to send. That Python script will keep a link out in the video description so you can download it, but building the curl command by hand from the signed URL that's returned back from Genesys Cloud can be a bit of a pain. So let's go ahead and begin. Now, if you remember, originally we had set up in video 2 an integration and a data action for our function. Now, in order to get our function uploaded, we have to basically prep Genesys Cloud and give it configuration information about our function. So the first thing we're going to go do is we're going to go look up the action, the data action that is going to be the wrapper for our function. And we created that in video 2. Now, the simplest way to do that is to go out and issue the following CLI command. Let me just get that copied over. Copy and paste. Now, what this command is going to do is it's going to bring back a list of all the actions that are in draft format. And it's going to be everything within your Genesys Cloud platform. And what we want to do is find our action that we created, which was called myCertificate and grab the ID associated with that function. Now, the ID is going to be important because we still have to issue a few more CLI commands, and that ID is going to be part of that CLI command. Now, you could go through and search for the specific function that you had out there by hand, or you could use JQ to basically search for the function. So I am going to pipe the output from my CLI command over to JQ and say, give me the function, give me the JSON whose name attribute equals myCertificate function. All right, great. So this is the ID that we're going to use now for the rest of the commands. So let me just copy that and keep that over here where we can kind of reuse that as we go forward. Now, once we've got that ID, what we're going to want to do is we're going to want to basically update the function with its runtime configuration in Genesys Cloud. And the way we do that is we're going to issue a command called GC integrations actions draft functions update. Now, just as a FYI, anytime you want to see the actual APIs on the command, if you just issue the command that we're showing you here, we include the APIs and then also the permissions that need to be there on the OAuth client being used by the command. We also include the API that's backing this because basically our CLI is a wrapper around our API. It's meant for system administrators who don't want to have to deal with the APIs or writing scripts all the time to be able to quickly do work within Genesys Cloud. So let's go ahead and issue this command. Now, as part of this command, we have to tell our data action a little bit of information about our function. We have to give it the handler inside the zip file, including the function. And this should look familiar because it follows the same structure or format that we had within our serverless YAML. We also have to go and give the runtime that we are going to invoke with this Genesys Cloud function and the amount of time in seconds that we're going to wait before timing out that Genesys Cloud function. So let's go ahead now and let's go get this configuration out there. So we're going to go and update our commands, our function with this information. And we're going to go -F, and we're going to say config func.json. So that's going to pass the contents of that config func.json over to our CLI. Now, we could also pipe that JSON blob directly in there, but I find it easier to work with files. All right, so now we see out here that we've got our function configured. Now, the next part is now that we've got the function configured, we need to get a signed URL to upload the function to Genesys Cloud. Now, a signed URL is an AWS construct that basically does a cryptographically sealed URL that allows you to place an object out into an AWS S3 bucket. Now, this URL is only going to be good for a little bit of time, and I have to warn you, it's pretty big function, especially once you have to go get this information out to curl. So I am going to demonstrate a little bit of Python script I use to help generate the curl command that's going to use the signed URL that we're going to create. So let's go ahead and get our function out there. Let's get the command out there for you to see. So the command that we're going to send is a GC integration actions draft functions upload create. And just like before, we're going to have to put the ID of the action that we want to create the signed URL for. So let me put this out here. And we're also going to have to pass some information to it. So I've captured that information in the file. I give it the name of the zip file. And I give the number of seconds that this URL is going to be good for before it times out. Now, a little pro tip here, if you're going to be playing around and uploading multiple URL timeouts, you can increase this time. So right now I have it at 1200 seconds. So you don't have to keep generating a signed URL every time you want to go and upload something. You can just reuse it. Now, eventually this URL will time out after 1200 seconds, and then you'll have to go through and do this work again. So now that we have that, let's go put our signed URL out there. And let's execute it and look at what the output is. So there's our signed URL that we're going to use in curl. And setting this up in curl is going to be really, really ugly and big. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pipe this to my Python script I wrote called generate curl command. And it's going to generate the curl command for me. And it's going to take the data that was returned from that previous CLI command and populate my curl command. So here's the curl command now all completely populated with all the right information. But as you can see, it's pretty big and ugly. If you want to see what this generate curl command is it's pretty simple. We're basically just taking it from standard in, we're reading in the data, and then we're just sending it to basically a templated, a templated string and dropping in the JSON data into it. Now, what I can do at this point, I can either cut and paste this command and I can run it. So for instance, I could just cut and paste this and run it. Copy, paste. And now we've uploaded the file. It's a relatively small file, so it doesn't take long. Or optionally, I can just take my Python script and I can shell it out to, or I can pipe it out to a shell and then just automatically run that curl command. Now, remember, you have to have curl installed on your machine. And if you're using Windows, you're going to have to work through doing the equivalent in Windows. All right, so now that this command is, this function has been uploaded, let's go validate it again. So I'm going to go out there now, and I'm going to take a look at this function. And once again, I am going to need the data action that this function is associated with. So let me grab this. And we can see that we've successfully created and uploaded our function. We've got it out here. The date time indicates the date in which it was originally created, and then the date that it was the zip file was created. I've done this several times over the last a couple days, so you can see that the original configuration was created on this date, but our latest zip file was uploaded here, and we can show there was no problems with the upload. So we're showing this function as available. So on that note, I'm going to end the DevDrop. We went through this DevDrop, and we basically showed you a series of commands to go and package up and deploy the actual physical function file. We are in early beta, so this is, I'll be the first to admit, a little bit clunky, but we are planning shortly after the Genesys Cloud Functions are released, the Genesys Cloud Functions team is planning on releasing a CXS code component that will help upload this, and we will be making some modifications to the CLI to simplify this whole process. So the last dev drop in this series is just basically, now that we've uploaded this zip file, is to actually go out and test it out. So if you have any questions or concerns, as always, please leave them in the comments for the video or leave a comment out on the developer forum post. Thanks, everybody, and have a great one.